toe the party line, or if your conscience really believe otherwise, you can either abstain or stay away. In this particular situation, there is no party position, and I think the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is speaking as a Kenyan and a statesman. I am sure concerned about the wage bill, which everybody is concerned about. But I think if this bill were to be put into context, perhaps there needs to be some misconception about the intention of this bill, which the public need to consume.
As much as you're saying that Honorable Raila Odinga was talking as a Kenyan, at the same time, he's talking as your party leader. Are you saying that you are ready to go against your party leader's wish?
On a number of occasions, and I always do this, I will do that again, when there are controversial bills in which the party takes a position, I have asked the advice of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. On this particular one, I haven't spoken to him, but I like to reiterate that when the party leader speaks, and he wants to speak as the leader of the ODM party, he will summon the NEC and he will direct the chairman of the party, who is Mbadi, to call a parliamentary group meeting. When we have a parliamentary group meeting, then we take what you call a party position. That party position is communicated officially through the media. As you're aware, for example, the gender bill, the party position was in support of the gender bill. We were whipped. We did a press conference. Honorable Mbadi sent a message, and the official position of the party was that we are in support of the gender bill. On this particular one, I want to reiterate that the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is a statesman, and he is able to separate his different roles. As party leader, I am sure that if he wants to apply the whip, he will apply the whip and we will comply. He has spoken as an elder statesman, and I think it is distinguishable from his role as party leader.
Well, let's look at a situation whereby your party leader decides to whip all ODM members of parliament to actually drop the support for this bill that is due for its third reading, the third stage this week probably. Will you drop your support for the parliamentary service bill?
Obviously, yes. I have told you before that I have consulted with my party leader on controversial bills where the party has taken a position, and with his guidance, we will stand guided. If he says that the party position and the whip is applied, I will definitely myself withdraw my support for the bill.
Very interesting to hear you say that you're ready to withdraw your support for the bill should your party leader decide to whip you members of parliament to do so. But interestingly, last week and this week, actually we've also played that clip, you are very vocal by telling President Uhuru Kenyatta that the president, you brought the finance bill and we were whipped and we supported the finance bill, but when it comes to this one, forget about it.
Yes, I made that statement then within a certain context. I was debating in the House. I think the point that I was trying to drive was simple, that the misconception out there has been that members of parliament, through the parliamentary service bill, are trying to increase their salaries and therefore increasing the tax burden. So the point I was trying to make then that at the time when the whip was applied, or that President Kenyatta pushed for the 8% on the VAT. At that particular time, it should have been important for the president then to think of the tax burden that it was going to put upon the people of Kenya. So I made the point then that we allowed you to apply the whip at that particular time, but on this one, kindly allow the members of parliament to vote on their conscience. So it is within that context that I was telling him that on this one, you will have to allow members of parliament to vote as they wish.
So your conscience, Honorable Oluoch, as we speak, your conscience is, despite should your party leader fail to whip you members of parliament not to support this bill, your conscience is you will support this bill. And let me just give you that breakdown, because while you're talking on the floor of the House, you say that you earn 540,000. This is without mileage. But when we add those other lances that you get, it is more than 540,000. So if you feel that you're not able to serve your people with this money that you're given, then why not drop out of politics?
For the records, I earn 540,000 as a member of parliament for Nairobi, and this is applicable to all members of Nairobi, the environs of Kajiado, Machakos, Kiambu, and even as places as far-flung as parts of Rift Valley. We are not entitled to mileage, and this is one of the things that this bill seeks to equalize. So that there is no differentiation between a member of parliament. If every member of parliament needs to move and serve his people and there is entitlement to mileage, let that mileage be available to everybody. As a member of parliament for Nairobi, I can tell you I don't earn a single cent on mileage. That's the question. So the issue here is that the Parliamentary Service Bill is not increasing mileage. Mileage is already an entitlement, except for members of Parliament. It's important that the public consume this information. So second, members of Parliament are already entitled to mortgage. They are not putting a new requirement for mortgage. Number three, mortgage is a commercial loan. It is a commercial loan which even state officers like CSs, they can walk to a bank or through whatever SACC or organization, ask for a commercial loan and pay for it. For the record, I am entitled to mortgage. I have not picked that mortgage. But the point we are trying to make is if all state officers, and we are ranked fourth if you look at the schedule under Article 260 after the President, the Deputy President, the Cabinet Secretaries, then MPs. A CS, a PS, junior people whom we vet, they're entitled as of right to house allowance. They're entitled as of right to an alternative of a house. Why shouldn't members of parliament? So the argument is either have the house allowance for everybody or take it away from everybody. The same category of people I have told you. Recently, I was traveling to Mombasa with members of parliament. We alighted from the plane in Mombasa. Members of parliament are sharing a taxi, a cab, 6 members of parliament, and we don't mind it. But a CAS whom we came with from Nairobi is dropped with a GK vehicle in Nairobi, from Nairobi to the airport. When we reach Mombasa, another GK vehicle is waiting for that cabinet assistant secretary. So the question is, why should some categories of state officers, yes?
Mheshimiwa, so what I'm getting from your argument, it is that what members of parliament want at the end of the day is that they want a life of luxury at the expense of the common mwananchi. Right now, we're talking about unemployment. We're talking about a bloated wage bill. We're talking about civil servants who are out there asking for salary increment where the government says we cannot give you salary increment. Look at doctors, look at nurses, look at teachers, look at lecturers. And out here, we are having members of parliament who are saying, we need much more. We want our second wives and children, you know, for our second wives, get that medical cover. All this, Kenyans did not plan for that. Why can't you just stay with what you have at the end of the day?
I think it is important that people read that bill. I have gone through that bill. I have not seen anywhere where the bill states that you will have medical cover entitled to second, third, and fourth wives. If people have made those propositions during the debate, those are simple opinions that people have made. There is nowhere in that bill where medical cover is being extended to third wives. Secondly, we need to cast this argument in its proper perspective. There is no salary increment. The simple thing that this bill seeks to do is to comply with the Constitution at Article 230, read together with the 5th schedule. Under the Article 230, we had a number of constitutional commission in Chapter 15. All those have had enabling legislations put to be able to operationalize them. The Judicial Service Commission, Kenya Human Rights, you have the Gender and Equality Commission, IEBC Commission, Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The only constitutional commission where we have not put a statute is the PSC. So let's look at this in terms of its compliance with the Constitution to put a statute. Then in that statute, we have simply domesticated and entrenched what members of parliament are already entitled to. I want to repeat, and please, let's read the bill. There is no single cent being added to anybody's salary. There is no medical cover that is being extended to anybody's wife.
Yes,
these are entitlements they already enjoy, and what they enjoy, we are simply putting into statute.
Yes, there's no single increment on your pay in terms of your salary at the end of the month, but the argument that the common Mwananchi here has, it is that some of the demands that members of parliament want will actually make the wedge bill to be more blotted, and that is why they're comparing it with why should you have these demands that you want implemented, and yet some Kenyans outside there, the government says we cannot even give you much more what you want. Look at workers. The government gave them an increment of 8%. It was in May this year, but that has not yet been implemented. But here we have members of parliament ready to come together to ensure that the demands are implemented.
I have my own wish list of things that are demands that I wish they could give me. For example, I have fire disaster every 3 weeks in Mathare constituency. I use my own salary to do that. Lots of other things, medical health, bills in hospitals. Those are wish lists. Those are things that if I were to say, I would say, please add my salary 3 times, 4 times so that I can be able to make those demands. Those demands are just that, demands wish list. They are not on the bill. Please, let Kenyans read the bill. If anybody says that, I have 3 wives I wish you could cover them, that's an individual's opinion. Let members of parliament be judged on the text and the content of the bill. The text and the content of the bill are different from what the media is putting out there as being purported to be part of the bill. There is nothing about an extension of our insurance to other people. There is nothing like adding our mileage. Mileage is already there. There's nothing like adding salaries. Salaries are going to be the same. The only thing that is there that I have seen that is new is a question of public participation. And the issue of public participation is to the extent that if members of parliament are going to carry out public participation, which is a function that is entrenched under Article 118 and Article 94 and 95, which says that parliament and members of parliament exist in order to resolve conflicts, to resolve issues, and to respond to issues of their constituents.
So why can't members then,
they're simply asking for facilitation to be able to do that.
Okay, you're asking for facilitation.
To our personal allowances or salaries, yes.
You are saying that you're asking for facilitation, that members of parliament are not asking for too much. Then why can't members of parliament show leadership and drop some of their proposals?
There is no proposal to drop. I want to repeat again. There is, we are not adding any salary. We are not adding anything on medical insurance. We are simply saying if you're going to do public participation, you can't do it in the abstract. The government added 8% on VAT. Why? They said they needed to carry out operations of government. And we yielded. People passed that bill because government cannot grind to a halt. Parliament is a separate independent organ which needs to function just as the national government. In order for it to function, it needs to have the enabling wherewithal to be able to do that. That's not adding anything to the personal emoluments or allowances of the members of parliament.
So now, as we wind up this conversation, and the story that was done by my colleague Chris Thairu, our senior political affairs reporter, and members of parliament, another argument they had is they need some of this, some of the proposed amendments to that parliamentary service bill implemented, because they're saying that when they're needed by the constituents at the village or at the constituency level rather, they're supposed to be there for them in terms of FINDRO, in terms of school fees. But at the end of the day, even a common Mwananchi cannot reach some of these members of parliament. Either they don't pick their phone calls, either they say they're not available. So all this, it begs the question, then whose interest are members of parliament having at the end of the day?
Members of parliament will always have various ways in which they reach their people. They may not reach everybody. They reach people through their personal offices in parliament. I want to believe that each member of parliament has an office in the constituency. I know for sure that I have established one which is just concluded in Mathare constituency in one of the wards, and I shall be sitting there once every 2 weeks. If there are things that can be improved in terms of access, that is a legitimate concern of the people, but it cannot be used as a reason to try to strangle and to disable members of parliament generally from being able to carry their function. But if there are concerns about increased access, I am sure that that is a legitimate concern. I am sure that that is something that each member of parliament, depending on their unique constituencies, should be able to address.
Right. Thank you so much, Honorable Oluoch, Member of Parliament for Mathare. We'll see how this will play out on the floor of the House. Should ODM party leader Raila Odinga whip you to actually drop your support, we'll see whether you'll be one of the members of Parliament to do that. But thank you so much for talking to us here on KTN News Center.